What if I told you the Vikings didn't leave home because they were chasing glory? They left because staying was slowly killing them. And once you see why, the Viking story won't feel ancient anymore.
It'll feel uncomfortably familiar. Because this isn't just their story. It's about anyone who's ever realized
Home isn't working the way it used to. But to understand that, we have to go back to the land that made them.
Let's clear something up first. The Viking homeland? It was never comfortable.
We like to imagine cozy longhouses, roaring fires, tight-knit communities. And sure, that existed. But it came at a cost. The land was cold. The growing season was short. One bad summer could mean hunger all winter. Imagine waking up every day, knowing your survival depends on weather you can't control. No apps, no forecasts, no safety net. Just soil, sweat, and hope. Most Vikings weren't raiders. They were farmers. And farming in Scandinavia was like playing life on hard mode. Thin soil, rocky ground, relentless cold. You didn't just work the land, you fought it. And here's the thing no one likes to say. For generations, they accepted it. Because it was home. Because their fathers survived it. And their grandfathers before them.
Yeah.
And when life is hard but familiar, people convince themselves it's normal.
Sound familiar? But over time, that balance began to crack. And when it did, everything changed.
Here's the twist. The Vikings didn't suddenly decide to leave. They discovered something first.
The sea. At first, it was necessity. Fishing, trade, short coastal trips.
But Viking ships weren't ordinary boats. They were fast, flexible, able to sail rivers and open oceans.
And once they realized that, the world exploded.
Suddenly, there were lands with rich soil, longer summers, easier farming, more resources.
Places where food didn't feel like a gamble every year.
Imagine spending your whole life struggling, then seeing proof that it doesn't have to be that hard. That somewhere else, people eat better, live warmer, grow more.
That's dangerous knowledge. Because once you know something better exists, it's impossible to unknow it.
Home didn't change overnight, but their perception of it did.
And that's when staying started to feel like a choice. Here's where the story gets heavier, because it wasn't just curiosity pulling Vikings outward. It was pressure pushing them out.
Scandinavia had limited land, and families were growing, which meant inheritance became a problem.
the eldest son might inherit the farm. But what about the rest? Not everyone could stay. Not everyone fit anymore.
And Viking culture valued independence. A man without land wasn't just poor, he was powerless. So what do you do when the land can't support everyone? You look elsewhere. But that wasn't the only pressure. Climate shifts, small but brutal, made harvests unpredictable.
A few colder decades could destroy food security. And when food becomes uncertain, violence follows.
Raiding wasn't always ambition. Sometimes it was desperation. Sometimes it was survival wearing armor. And now here's the part that matters most. They didn't leave because they hated home. They left because home stopped being enough.
And deep down, they knew it.
This is the moment everything flips. At first, leaving was temporary, a season away, a voyage, then back home.
But slowly, leaving worked. They came back with silver,
Stories!
new ideas. And suddenly, the homeland felt smaller. Not weaker, just limited. You ever go back to a place from your childhood, and it feels tighter than you remember? That's what happened to the Vikings. The world expanded faster than home could keep up. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Once people realize they can build a better life elsewhere, they rarely stop at just visiting.
So they settled. Iceland, Greenland, England, Normandy.
At first, these were extensions of home. But over time, they became replacements. Here's the part history doesn't dramatize enough. Leaving wasn't heroic. It was terrifying. You might never see your parents again. Your village. Your ancestors' graves. But staying carried its own fear. Hunger. Poverty. No future for your children. So Vikings made a choice. Not because they were fearless, but because the risk of staying felt worse than the risk of leaving. That's the real reason they left. And once enough people left, home changed forever. Communities thinned. Traditions softened. The old Viking world began to dissolve. Not with a war, but with decisions. Quiet ones. By the time Christianity spread, by the time kingdoms replaced clans, the Viking homeland was still there. But the Viking way of life? That had already moved on. They didn't disappear. They adapted. They became farmers elsewhere. Kings, merchants, settlers.
The raids stopped not because Vikings got weak, but because they no longer needed to raid.
They found stability. And ironically, that's what finally ended the Viking Age.
Now here's why this story hits so hard today. Because how many people right now feel this exact tension?
Staying somewhere familiar, even though it no longer works. A job, a city, a mindset. We tell ourselves, just endure. It's always been this way. This is home.
But deep down, we know. Growth pulls. Pressure pushes.
And one day, the cost of staying becomes higher than the fear of leaving.
The Vikings weren't reckless. They were honest with themselves. And history remembers them, not for where they stayed, but for where they dared to go. So let me ask you, do you think the Vikings abandoned their homeland, or did they outgrow it?
Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that dig beneath history, that explore ancient decisions that still shape how we live today,
Subscribe, join the Longhouse, and stay with us. Because sometimes, leaving home isn't failure. It's survival in disguise.